if the secret to more engaging presentations isn't in the slides, but in your toolbox? See, on today's show, we're exploring how props, games, and brain science based tools can transform the way audiences learn, listen, and remember. And we've got someone who built an entire company around helping trainers and speakers bring more creativity and effectiveness into the rooms that they enter. You ready? Let's go. Today's guest, Sue Landay, is the owner and president of Trainer's Warehouse. She writes and presents on using brain science to improve learning, and she also has, well, let's just say, an unusual educational background, which I'm going to let her explain. And she'll do a much better job of explaining it than I will. So I'm going to turn it over to her. The floor is yours. Sue, let's hear a little bit about this journey of yours.
All right. Well, it's nice to be here, Rob. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
So it has been quite a journey. So my dad started Trainer's Warehouse back in the early 90s. And at the time, I was just out of college and I was on my way to business school. Um, and actually, I guess I should back up from there. So I went to Yale. It was a nice credential for me. And as I was graduating from Yale, a friend of mine who had a best friend from home who was in the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus was visiting with them. And he's like, "Hey, Sue, I hear you do mime and gymnastics and all this stuff. Like, what do you think about joining the circus?" And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm graduating from Yale and maybe I should figure out that job first. But it turns out that the auditions were in New York City at a time when I was going to be there anyway. So I took a little detour, went to Madison Square Garden and auditioned for the circus. And that audition was actually for Clown College. So from Yale to Clown College, off I go, and then do my whole clowning thing, did perform with the show in Japan, nonetheless. And then came to the point where I was sort of ready to start my career and had a few other steps or missteps before I decided to join my dad in the late 90s for this new company that was at the time called Office Images,
Hmm.
and convinced him with this business school background that I had that he should rename the company to Trainer's Warehouse. And it was kind of bringing together the fun and the professionalism that, because it was the hallmark or the cornerstone of my early education.
Right.
So I don't know, how many more details do you
That
want?
was pretty good. I'll tell you the question I want to ask. Chase that one down with this because I had a son that graduated from NYU and then said I'm going to be a comedian. And I did a Ralph Cramden from the Honeymooners way back then when going hamada 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 what? When you got out of Yale and you said, I think I'm going to try this clown college thing. Was that encouraged by your parents, or were they a little bit cautious about that?
So I was really lucky. I'm a middle child. I don't know where you are. My dad was a middle child, and he had a really unusual path himself. And so, like, in between the Yale and the Clown College application, I had gotten a job in advertising and I was answering phones and doing kind of mindless work. And so I was ready for a change. But more than that, I think he had in his head that it's good to kind of to follow dreams, to try something different, to take a chance. And I don't know if that's a middle child kind of trait, but he was really supportive. In fact, as I was making the decision once I was accepted to Clown College about whether to attend, the Big Apple Circus was in Boston. And my dad came with me. We said, let's go to the circus and see if we can find a clown there who's been through this program at Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. And so we found a fellow and I made an appointment to meet with him. And so I guess that's a long answer to my dad was incredibly supportive and I was, really lucky to have that support.
You were lucky. Who knows? I may have been a comedian, but I was raised by a Marine, and we weren't having actors, comedians, performers. So I had to come in sort of through the side door there as a corporate trainer, and sort of slide in.
Okay,
So
but so we're made of the same stuff, you and me, Rob.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We sure are. And I got to tell you, it was funny because I remember kind of being a little frustrated. And then when my son announced he's going to be a comedian, I felt that little twang of, What about business? What? And but it's been a wonderful experience for me. And so good on your dad. And I'm glad that I kind of figured it out too. But
For sure, yeah.
yeah, and I don't often do commercials, but I want to tell you, I so love the company that you run. I'm well aware of your company. I have been digging in and grabbing little name tags, buzzers, and bells, game show buttons. I can recite some of that catalog. I'm not just blowing smoke at you. And the reason why I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation is I want people listening. You don't have to be a corporate trainer, with a 16-hour 2-day room. You can be keynoting and really get creative. And if you want to go someplace and find and kind of have your mind blown, you go to the website for Trainers Warehouse. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're talking about creativity. So, wi- in terms of some of the tools,
Yeah.
why do you think trainers underestimate the power of, for the lack of a better word, play?
I think we're so focused on how we're being perceived and on making sure that we have the credentials and we can impress and we can do this and that we people kind of tend to shy away from the fun stuff. And in fact, I early on we would be at conferences and trade shows, me and my dad, and we'd have people say like, I can't use this stuff. I train the Marine Corps, or I train accountants, or I train executives. Like, I can't bring this stuff in. And that's part of the reason I started to collect the data and the brain science and any numbers that I could find to bring together the rationale and the hardcore reasons of why this stuff makes sense. And, before it was like we're doing studies on participation in class or laughter, things that had been studied early on, but more recently, with the advent of more and more brain research, we have more data about how people take in information. The fact that reducing stress reduces cortisol levels and all this stuff and actually helps you form memories. It's like, oh, that's why fidget toys can help,
Right.
right? So it's not just about fun for fun's sake. And okay, so at one point we tried to sell rubber chicken. It made my mom
I
crazy. She's
saw that
like,
rubber
"We're
chicken.
not a five and dime store. Why are we selling this
I
crap?"
saw that yellow chicken. It was a long yellow chicken, as I recall, right?
And
Just
you
kind of,
squeeze it and it
yeah.
squawks and my mom hated that product. And we're like, okay, but if it's going to bring fun and relaxation and make people laugh, like that's the reason for it. But you still want to have credibility. And we did find like we're not selling clown noses. We're not even selling like the team bonding experiences where you make cocktails together or where you like go to a cooking class or a community service kind of project. It's much more for us and for our customers, it's much more purposeful of okay, it's not just, again, not fun for fun's sake. Like, what are we going to learn from this? And how are we going to transition from what we're doing through this exercise to something meaningful that's going to help us out in terms of our bottom line.
Bingo.
So sometimes those things, fun helps and it builds relationships, but you need to articulate that and say, this is my purpose. And what is the purpose of building those relationships so that we can build trust and deal with, shit when it happens,
Right. Yeah.
right? Those
Yeah.
relationships can help us achieve those long-term bottom line goals.
Yeah, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to tell you there's a couple things that people need to hear about this. Don't blame the product, okay? Blame how you're using the product. There's it's a big I've been online. There's a lot of products. They're not all going to be right for every program. So you've got to pick the right product for the right audience, delivered at the right time. And my goodness, you nailed it when you said, Sue, just like telling a story. Don't just tell a story. We need to hear why we told the story and how it connects to our message,
Why are you
or
using my time?
right, or you're
Right?
misusing the story. But don't blame storytelling. Don't blame the product, right? And so I think that's one of the issues. I think we've seen other people do it incorrectly, kind of crowbar a prop in because I guess they like it, or never really finish what was the message. So I actually, it's like training wheels. I just haven't taken them off. I actually build a PowerPoint slide every time I use a prop or a product like that that says takeaways because it forces me, just in case I forget, click, there it is.
Okay, you
Here
need to
are
share
the,
those with me. I'll
right.
put them online.
Well, yeah, because it'll guide us. So just in case we're moving a little fast, we got a little adrenaline rush, whatever's going on, when you click, you'll be reminded, here are the three takeaways from what we just did. And when we do that, now we have a prop and a trainer and a message that's kind of in alignment. But yeah, no,
Well,
I
because
think, yeah, go ahead.
people are so short on time, right? Like
Right,
they want to make sure that whether you're presenting or training or facilitating or whatever you're doing, you're respecting their time,
right, right.
right? I'm reading your behind your shoulder, the presentation whisper, and I feel like one of the things we whisper are icebreakers. Like, should we talk about those? Like, talk about
Definitely.
people feeling like, oh my God, why are we doing this activity? What, right? Don't do it if it's not connected to your content and there isn't a reason to.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've spoken to Chad Littlefield, who, and there are several trainers who use the rubric um, of focusing on content, on connections before content. Let me say that again. That focus on connections before content, right? And those could be connections either to one another or to the material. But those connections have a purpose. And the brain science piece behind that is that your brain looks for scaffolding. So by priming the pump and having participants think about what they already know about a topic, it helps to build those memory scaffolds that you can then say, oh yeah, I remember learning this. How do I need to change that? How can I build on it? So if we think of not icebreakers, but openers and context builders and things like that, it brings a different spin to something that's actually really important as part of a training day.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go and defend these icebreakers that you keep whispering about and I wrote an article about it about a month ago because it is a pay me now or pay me later. Listen, when we do a keynote, we got 500 people out there. We don't need to get ourselves into a big, lengthy icebreaker. We're kind of talking to that audience. Please don't quote me on that. But there's a wall. There's a third wall there. But this is called Trainer's Warehouse. And when we're training a group of people and you think you don't have time for the icebreaker, I think we're right on that same mantra. Don't blame the icebreaker. Blame the delivery of it, the timing of it, the one that you chose. But if
Action, right.
Right, but if you don't ice break that group because you want to step on the gas a little bit, go ahead. Now you're going to pay for it because you have a group that's not really coming together. You're not getting a lot of questions. Must be a quiet group of people. No, they're not connected. You didn't ever bring that group. They don't even trust you yet. So for a 1 day workshop, let's say, I'm not going to run an hour icebreaker. but 15, 10 minutes, something that just warms that group up will be the best use of your time that you can do. And
Yeah.
I fear that icebreakers are sort of almost like,
Get a bad name.
yeah, it's like a bad,
Yeah.
right. It's like I used to be a quality instructor for Xerox. We had to stop using the name. We had project re-engineering. We came up with other terms because so many people adapted to quality and then didn't implement that we couldn't use the word anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, we're blaming the process. No, blame the implementation.
Yeah. I think the other fact that I've heard that's kind of interesting, and I think this originally came from Priya Parker, who's written on the art of gathering, who talks about the fact that if you can get people talking in the first 5 minutes of a session, they're more likely to talk throughout.
Right.
And so, as you're opening, whether you're in person or online, figuring out some way for people to just like open up their mouths and say something, a group hello, whatever it is. Maybe not go around the room and say your name and your favorite dog, um,
No,
but to speak,
yeah, I'm
right?
laughing because not that I use that one, but I'm laughing because that's like the poster child for why people, for the icebreaker. If I'm sorry I butt in on you, but I will say this: I am one that likes to hear a hobby, and I by the way, my favorite is typically I don't want you to introduce you. I want the person to the left of you to introduce you, and then you'll introduce yourself to them, and we already have a little friendship brewing.
But think about the why the hobby works, right? Like it lets people learn something about each other that they may not have known and connect about something so that they feel like they know something about each other.
Right. But
Right?
that hobby thing, Sue, I have a completely different reason why I ask for hobbies.
Do tell.
I ask about hobbies because when I have a learner, remember, not a keynote, now I'm in the pit working with a group of people. Could be 2 days, could be a week. Xerox, my classes were all 2 weeks. I've got somebody who may be stuck, can't make a connection I'm trying to make, just struggling, struggling. It allows me to backpedal and say, Sue, you mentioned that you're a water skier. Remember when you first got up on those skis and you fell down a few times? You thought, I'll never be able. Well, what we're doing here is sort of, I can connect it to something that's familiar to you. So I am writing down those hobbies, not just because I have nothing to do, but that's my get out of jail free card when I need a connection to somebody that's not connecting something a little bit more technical and they're being challenged.
Even better. And I also like the idea of taking that hobby and then saying, okay, we've just learned XYZ about leadership. Let's think about your hobby that you know really well and, create a metaphor. What can you relate that to
Yeah,
that's going to remind you of something that we've just learned? So
right.
then again, you're creating that mental connection between something you know and enjoy and love and do a lot and do really well with something new and kind of create those synapses, which could be another interesting spin.
Yeah, I love it. By the way, I want to tell you, I'm heading to New York next week. I got your products in my bag. I'm doing
What do
I've
we
got,
have? What did
I'll
you
tell you,
what'd you pack?
here's what I packed. I got a group that saw me last year, and we're on to a
Okay.
different topic. And because the client, and it's a day and an hour, we won't worry about the second hour on the second day.
Okay.
Uh, but
Reinforcement.
but they want a review. And I know that they're used to, okay, can I remember this? Can anybody remember that? Nope. I got two flip chart boards ready to go with my own form of Jeopardy. I've got a little bit of play money in my hand. But most importantly, I don't know what you call them, but I have the game show buzzers that allow people to kind of click in when they think they have the answer, blocks everybody else out while I'm listening if they've got it right. And the beauty of that product is if they do, fine. I hit a button, everybody's clear, we're ready for the next question. If they get it wrong, I hit a button, that one and only that one is blocked, and everybody else goes green again. So I'm going to have a very enjoyable review session. And I'm adding a little energy to it rather than who's got their hand up first. We could do
Yep.
that, but this is entertainment, right? Think we're going to entertain them a little bit.
Absolutely. Okay, so me first buzzers. That's
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yep.
For
Yeah.
any who are listening.
And I'll tell you, I have another product I'm bringing to viewers. I have
Okay.
see this one wasn't just like I said. I'm not blowing smoke. I got the you'll have to tell me what they're called, but I got the red and green button that gives me a bell when they get it right and a buzzer when they get it wrong. So
Yep.
I'm all loaded up. I really do believe in another life. I was a game show host, by the
You
way.
must have been. You must have been. It's like instead of the comedian, you went game show
Yeah,
host.
there you go. There you go. All right, let's switch to virtual for a second because I
Okay.
got this thing nailed live. But we're a lot of us, including me, are we're doing some virtual still, and we're always going to do some virtual now.
Yep.
Any thoughts on some ideas or products that work virtually?
So when COVID hit, a lot our of our vendor partners created online versions of what they're doing. So part of it are those tools, whether they might be an EQ game, or Amy Clymer has this Clymer card deck of images that you can create metaphors with for different learning points. So there are a handful of tools. It's also, I've also heard people say that bringing 3D objects into your virtual sessions is a benefit. So like these thumb balls behind me, where
For those of
you,
you listening, these I'm looking at this. It almost looks like a small soccer ball. But for those of you on video, you're looking right at it. Keep going.
yep. So you throw the ball and you answer the prompt under your thumb. This one is for session closers. We have probably 25 versions of this. Um, So you can't use this in a virtual session, of course, but you could throw it and say, okay, a current practice I'd like to change. And at least they're like interacting not just with another PowerPoint screen, another set of words behind them, but with an object. I think that you can bring that spirit of fun and play and tactile tools into your sessions. I've had a bunch of virtual training specialists join me in a biweekly show and share event that I host, and one of them suggested like another way to kind of get people to interact with the 3D objects around them is to say, look for something on your desk that reminds you of this learning point that we just covered, and show the item and talk about what it makes you think of. So I'm like looking at the random items on my desk. I'm like, okay, I have honey for my
Honey.
tea. I have a nail clipper. But don't tell my husband that. But so like, okay, I need to kind of sweeten up my skills. I need to, this is a sticky idea. Like how do you use this stuff and get tactile even if you're in front of even if you're on a computer. And I also there are folks who have different sets of games that you can conduct to make your online sessions more interactive, whether you're using Zoom or Miro or other online tools.
All right, I got
So
an idea for you,
long
and maybe you got it.
long-winded,
You
sorry.
did fine.
Cut
I've
it
got
out if you need to.
no. I don't cut. I like authentic podcasts, but I'll tell you something I've been giving away virtually. See, mine is I deal a lot with sales teams. They're typically pretty competitive. So
Yep.
when we're doing a case study, maybe the best case study or the best presentation or the best. So I'm looking for things. You're going to laugh, and I got into a lot of trouble with this at Xerox 33 years ago. And then the first thing I did when I left Xerox was immediately redo it.
Okay.
But
Perfect.
I used to 35 years ago, I used to give away, wait for it now. Yeah, never when you walked in the room. After a day or two, you got a sense of jealousies,
Yeah.
got a personality. I would give away what's called action series Rob Jollis posters of me just sort of, pointing to the sky. I had a
It's your
photographer.
your personal rubber chicken.
Right there it is. With, things that would say, I like you because you're a winner, and kind of really silly. But,
Yeah.
and at Xerox, I had a manager who said, well, what's this giving away posters? And I said, well, obviously, at this point, people kind of know me. They've got my personality. I was banned. First thing I did when I left, because people loved those posters. Nobody cared if they didn't win it, but if they did, they liked it. Virtually, I still have those. They're a virtual winner, I call them. I slide them into the chat area and give them a poster. Remember, it's just tongue in cheek. All that most people want to do is say they won. They won. They're not really holding on to it. So I'm pushing back to you and I'm saying, is there anything at the trainer's warehouse that I could have? And if somebody won something, I could slide it into the chat area. So it's going to have to be kind of more
Hmm.
document oriented.
Okay, I'm gonna have to think about that one, and I like it, but
You
we're gonna
will
develop that.
will
The other
buy it.
thing I was thinking about when, as you were talking, are, we have had people send fidget toys, in advance to people if it's if it's a couple weeks session, if they're going to be there for a while. We've had people also send answer boards. So these are like a whiteboard on.
She's going to get the whiteboard, ladies and gentlemen. She has left.
Boo, 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 boo,
She's
boo. Here
back.
we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
So, an answer board that you write on with dry erase and wipe off, and everybody can hold up their answers at once. And so you've got all of this. So again, tactile, tactile experiences during an online session. But love your idea about a giveaway also.
Yeah, think about that. I'm challenging the Trainer's Warehouse. If you want, I can send some
Ah,
Rob Jollis Action Series posters, but
I want
I'm not so
those. I
sure
think
that's
I need
going
those.
to. I'm not so sure it's going to play well with everybody in the audience. But something, almost like a lead magnet sort of thing that you could slide in there, and it gives somebody the feeling of winning. So
Yeah.
okay, so that there's your challenge there. Another question for you: Do you have we a lot of times we trainers we use those tent cards. We want to get that
Yeah.
person's name. I know you've got some I think dry erase erasable ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have 10 cards that have sort of bulleted items of how you want people to participate? In other words, just they don't need to see the name Rob facing them. I know my name's Rob. I'm going to let that face inside the pit. Facing me may be no question's a bad question. Always feel comfortable. Sort of the rules of the road a little bit. And most training sessions, we have pretty much the same rules. I grabbed the
Yeah.
easiest one I could think of right off the bat, which is we always want to encourage those questions. Let them, while they're mindlessly thinking, look at that. Do we have that at the trainer's warehouse?
We do not, but I actually have an opinion about that.
Oh,
You're
okay.
having me on here because I have opinions,
I love
right?
opinion. Oh, my opinions are wrong all the time. That's why you're
So,
here. Tell me about that one.
so I actually really love that idea. And on those tents, I've also seen kind of dual purpose of not just a name, but turn it over and either write a goal or a hobby or something about yourself. So you kind of have that information on the other side. But as I'm thinking about kind of those ground rules and thinking about the idea, not just of telling people what the rules of the room are, but maybe you generate those together. Maybe they're up on a flip chart somewhere, or they're in your chat somewhere, and then you have someone write the ones that they kind of want top of mind as reminders of themselves. Have them write those on the dry erase rather than you like putting the rules in front of them as a reminder. Make them own those. Have them be in their own writing.
I like
So
it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to push our dry erase check cards, but
Well, how about we
I
push
do
this?
believe
Yeah.
I do believe that the physical writing and the owning that does make it more powerful to kind of live by.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I'll take one or the other. Let's both agree that if you're doing a workshop, particularly when we hit the road, folks, and you're not putting tent cards up there, and you're trying to pull a group of 20 people together, you're really missing a very fundamental, easy move. And you can try the hotel and see what they've got, but they're going to give you some flimsy paper, and they're going to start falling into the pit, etc. So again, I think this is not a nice to know. I think it's a need to have, which is
Yeah.
whether we have the rules or not. Let's make sure we got a nice tent card. And I think it says something about the trainer when people come in and there isn't just a kind of a piece of paper that somebody looked like they just threw together, but they actually brought in something professional looking. So we've got those names out there.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in it.
There's another thought about whether you want, and I'm curious about this because we've often said that, in terms of the dry erase, like having people be able to write their preferred name or a nickname is empowering. And then it's like, okay, you printed up Susan, and I really want to be called Susie.
Hmm.
And although I'm not saying that right now.
Right.
And being able to just sort of put that on, or I really go by these initials instead of yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So, there's something to say on that side, but I also, what you're talking about, welcoming people and having their names up and having a welcome sign also that says, you know, Julia so and so, and these five people welcome, go to room 207 or whatever it is. Like addressing people by name as they come in and being ready for them is really kind of nice.
Yeah, I agree. It certainly helps the
Yeah.
trainer out and it helps them out. Now, sometimes we trainers, we get into rooms where everybody knows everybody, they just don't know us. And then, we're not, this isn't going to be as challenging. But, I'm just sort of thinking in my head, what percentage of
Welcome,
time,
welcome, Rob.
right, exactly. I'll have the only name
Hi, Rob.
tag.
Be
Yeah,
nice to me.
yeah. And here are the
I
rules.
wanted to be a
Right,
comedian, but I'm not right
right.
now.
Here are the rules I've written for myself. Yeah. All right, let's close off with one last question. And if you were to, and this is a tough one because I was trying to figure out how I'd ask this because we've already said that this isn't a one size fits all. I want to know what type of program, what type of audience, etc. But give us, I'll tell you what, I'll make it easy. Give us one of your best sellers for a classic 1 or 2 day workshop on the road. That means not too big and not too heavy. Okay, we got to carry it. Give me something that I can take with me. I'm heading to New York. I got a bag of yours going, but if I were to add one more item, what would it be? Yeah.
No, I think it's hard because, as you said, what's going to be right depends on your group. Like, do I pack a ball or do I pack one of these things that has unzip it
Right.
and to pull out a card and pull out a question? Like, and what topic is on this? Is it,
Right.
am I focusing on getting to know you? Am I talking about leadership? Um, Even if I'm team building, do people, as you say, know each other already, or are we talking about building skill? Are we talking about
All
dealing
right.
with
I'm gonna change my
disruption,
question. I'm gonna change my
conflict?
question. All
Like
right. Here,
what is it we're
you're
trying to
right.
do?
I can't pin you down. Let me see if I can pin you down this way. How about we've done something that had some competition to it, and somebody just won something. It isn't virtual, so we can't give away a Rob poster. But what's and don't worry about
I
what the
have one for
program
you,
is.
actually.
Okay, what is it? What's a great giveaway for somebody that won something?
We did once do prizes, and I feel like we didn't sell them. People were just as happy to go get a gift card or a $5 bill, or otherwise we were looking at like, dentist prizes, like for adults, like, or give away a one of the fidget toys that you have and ask them, okay, what's this going to remind you of each time you use it? So here's a Trainer's Warehouse. Okay, there's three little loops and they're all connected. So maybe I'm thinking about, our teaming, that we are connected to each other and we need to rely on each other and come together, but also go out and find other information, come back and share.
Yeah.
So like, it's not necessarily that one prize for the winner. It's everybody having something that they can take away and apply.
All right. Okay.
I don't know.
That's okay. Well, most professional speakers have books, so we typically give away a book to a winner. And again, I
Or a
mean,
poster.
well, just don't tell Xerox. I'm going to show
Yeah,
you.
but
I'm going to show you my
yeah,
greatest giveaway. He's going to come right up on the screen. For those listening, don't forget we have these available on YouTube, and you'll see what's appearing right now, which is what we call a robblehead. It's not a bobblehead; it's a robblehead, and
love
that'll be going
that.
with me to New York. Okay.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So I think what we
See,
can
that's
yeah.
the kind of thing that you need. We can't do that. You
Well,
can't do that, right?
I don't know. I think maybe
Books,
some Robbleheads at the Trainers
bobbleheads.
Warehouse. That's one of the greatest trainers that
That's
ever lived, I hear. Yeah, I'll try and sell that one to you. Good luck with that one, huh? Listen,
okay.
uh, I knew we'd have some fun. Tell me about, let's get the website out, which I'm sure is fairly easy, but the website is,
It's trainerswarehouse.com.
and thank goodness you did a smart move, business major, or wherever you were coming from, because that's how I found it. I was looking for trainers things that might be in a warehouse. I mean, it Googled up some
Really?
many years ago. Yeah, I did. I actually just Googled and landed on it. The other name that you threw out, which I'd never heard, was not going to come up nor attract me. But I was actually looking for exactly your company, and it came up with my search. So good,
Yeah.
good job on that one. And how do people get a hold of you? You want them to get a hold of
So
you?
all the time, Susan at trainerswarehouse.com.
Good.
And I can also share my LinkedIn but make myself available and my email is out there and do welcome people to reach out and ask me questions.
Perfect. And I'm doing something. What am I doing for Trainers Warehouse? Aren't I doing something like
Well,
in,
we talked about doing a show and share of
yeah,
you talking about some of your kind of top tips. So
yeah.
we'll turn it around and I'll bring you on. So
All
we'll
right.
figure
So,
that out.
so keep your eyes open, folks, because I'm going in to talk to the Trainers Warehouse and I'm giving some of my tips and the Robblehead will be with me. Listen,
Love it.
terrific meeting you. Thank you so much for your time and keep doing what you're doing. We need it. We scratched the surface on creativity just now, folks. Believe me. Go to the website and you'll be able to search and find just about anything. If you're a trainer, if you're a speaker, Trainers Warehouse, that's the one. There we go. There I'm looking at the brochure. Excellent.
There we
Good.
go.
Good. All right. Sue, thanks so much
Thanks for
for
having
coming in.
me.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.